And welcome back for another amazing Cougarland podcast with the Dingus
Hey,
brothers.
hey, go
Cougarland.
Cougar!
The flying Dingus brothers, because you worked in a trapeze act together for Circus Soleil for so many years.
In the
Yeah.
Orfeo circus.
Yeah, go to Faye, traveling around like nomads.
What if that was true? That would be a hilarious thing. You're like, yeah, I was in the circus. Me and my brother, we had a trapeze act. Pretty cool
Yeah.
down in Yazelo. Everybody knew
Yeah.
us. We were hot.
Well, being Dodd's kids is almost like being in a circus, especially with all the moving and everything. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It in a way, like you look at the internet, and I looked at parallels. Like when you're sitting there at the snack bar with your friends on a Monday talking about, oh yeah, played football, or yeah, me and Billy went over, we jumped his bike into a pond, man. And it was stuff like that where people were like having their podcast on a Monday or by the team club or at the gym in the bleachers, wherever you hung out, right?
Yeah.
I thank God that we didn't have social media when we were in high school, because I don't know.
I couldn't even imagine some of the stuff that Len, you did. If they'd had pictures of that, wow, that'd have been some good Twitter feed and that kind of stuff.
I would have had a great following. All the bad kids,
Sure,
all the bad kids of
sure.
America would have bonded together. I relate to this.
That's right.
But it probably would have been. Who knows?
They would have kicked you out of Italy a lot sooner than they did.
I liked having anonymity. I mean, I think we all did for a minute, and I think that's why some people are anonymous now on social media. They are like, well, I don't want to be part of it, and some people don't want to revisit Vicenza because they either left feeling nobody cared.
Right.
But people were caught up in their own little bubble, and you're getting on the plane in Milano and nobody's waving you goodbye. Bye.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting because everyone had a different experience. So it just depends on who you talk to as to what their experience was in Italy, in Vicenza specifically, and it just depended on the dynamic. What friend group you had, and then now I'm talking because I graduated in '86, Lenny, you and I, and that was Breakfast Club time, and that was and there were cliques, and so everyone had a different experience. Whether your parent was enlisted, your parent was an officer, your parent was a civilian, everything was very kind of broken up and cliquish that way. And I remember going to the Post Theater and watching Breakfast Club because it came out our senior year. And I remember coming out of there going, wow, our it's a similar dynamic for us, but it's just different. There was those kind of, prep and jock and pothead and all that we saw in the movie, but we had versions of that in Vicenza. And so, like you said, Len, it just depended. Like some people, I'm sure, remember Vicenza high school experience fondly, others not so much. It just really depends.
So you focused in on the principal from the Breakfast Club because he said that I make $35,000 a year. So you're like, there's my job prospect.
There's my job.
What about you, Eric? I mean, you seem to have a pretty exciting life these days. What was it like to have Big Dave as a brother?
It was amazing to just see, because we're opposites and just physically. He was just a specimen of athleticism. You couldn't help but appreciate. And so it was kind of cool because I felt always a bit more awkward, and I always appreciated Dave's confidence and being able to navigate. I felt more of a chameleon. I tried to fit in with every group, maybe too hard to try to fit in with every group. So even where I didn't have athletic abilities, I would still try to join sports. And I think that's the one great thing about Vicenza and our experiences. To your point, we did have the Breakfast Club groups, but it wasn't so divisive that you couldn't interact with different groups.
Right.
You couldn't be a jock but still do a drama, or be across the table smoking by the teen club but still be in chorus. There was ability to kind of navigate and be friendly with everybody because the class was so small. But I think from being 4 years behind you guys, I remember us 7th and 8th graders other than being scared to be caught alone with the senior in the bathroom for the inevitable wedgie that you might
George. Yeah, I
or
remember
George that you might.
George, the old George.
But and I don't know if it was perception, but you guys looked huge to us. I mean, between Teddy Spitt, you, Len, Mark Parkins, Fred Parkins, I swear to God, you guys were like 6'4" and 200 pounds. You know, when you look at those yearbook pictures. By the time 90, our class, I mean, everybody just seemed smaller. I mean, you had running backs that were like 5'7", and that was like giving them a little bit of an inch. So I don't know what happened between you guys and the 90s.
That's right. You know, that's true, Eric. I remember, and that's something that even my wife, who is from near Buffalo, New York, she said the same thing. She was a class of 89. And she said that even then, the sort of 85, 86 crew, we were larger. When I think about us, it was Jim Pratt and Scott Lewis, myself, Len, you, Mark Parkins, and then we had Freddie and Mike Coley. We were all, gosh, 6 foot, 230, 40, 50, 60 even. And I remember, we were just a big group of guys physically. And then I went off to college, and I'd come back for the summers. Len, we were lifeguards together over the Bellagio pool and the post pool, the old Oak Club pool, which doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, it doesn't. I didn't know that.
Well, they kind of made it into the because there's the old Oak Club there, and then they moved the pool to where the guest quarters are, and the guest quarters, Army Lodging, they had that pool, but then good engineering, the pool leaked. There's all kinds of problems, and they can't keep it filled. But they moved the pool away from the old Oak Club and into where the guest quarters are. But I used to come back, and as I came back on each summer break and winter break, like Eric said, it was like the school physically got smaller, less students, and then and I know your dad, Len, had even split up. Like I think they had a gold team and a black team, right? Gold and black were the colors, and they made two little teams. And just physically, everyone got a little bit smaller.
A little bit of 4-man football.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. And Len, who knows? It must have been something they were putting in the food when we were adolescents.
Maybe we were eating some of the steroided beef. Who knows? It could have been.
Who knows, man? That pizza could have been. I mean, the pizza was doing us good because we were pretty large.
It was a bunch of big guys. I can imagine because I remember being a freshman and how all the seniors looked huge to us.
Right.
Initially, we were like, oh, they're huge and they're scary. So that's what Eric was going through. Because you guys were there from what years? I know your dad had spent a lot of time in Italy too.
Let's see, Enrico. We were, well, of course, our mom's Italian, Veronese. So Eric and I were both born on post. I went back when we had a hospital. There was an Army hospital. So Eric and I were born on post, and we spent
same hospital that Amy Adams was born in 2 years later.
That's right. Wow. Amy Adams was born there too, and so my dad, he was Army, and he switched his MOS, so he ended up having to do some different trainings, and so I remember we moved around a little bit when I was little. Fort Benning, Fort Sam Houston, and then we even went to Mannheim. I did preschool in Mannheim, and then from there, I remember kindergarten there in Germany as well. And then I did first grade at Fort Riley. That was back in the 70s. And then Dad got orders for Vicenza because he was at the dental clinic. I remember everybody used to go get their dental work done and teeth cleaned, and Dad was there. He was the NCOIC there at the dental clinic. And that was in 76, Len, that we were there. And I was in second grade. That's where I started at Vicenza Elementary School. And Enrico, Tita eri piccolo, you were.
I did kindergarten all the way through graduation, with the exception of like 6 months when we were in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Fort Campbell in 8th grade. And I remember that because then I did, Len, we were like in like 2nd or 3rd grade together. We had Miss Linden, I think. And then 4th grade, I think, was Linden, Miss Klopfer. And then I had Miss Lombardo in 5th grade. And then the famous Mr. Benanti, who I
Yeah, we
adore.
were all in class with Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we were
that was great.
all, and we did Mr. Benanti in sixth grade. And like Eric said there, then we did junior high, and then a little stint of my eighth grade. We were at Fort Campbell, then I came back, and a great memory I have is when I came back in eighth grade, we came like in the spring and we had just left. Of course, Ivan and you and I and Mark, we were all good buddies. And I disappeared because I had to go to Fort Campbell. And then I came back, and I remember we finished up eighth grade and we were standing outside of the school, and we were pretty excited because next year we were going to be high schoolers. And I remember we were all just so excited about being high schoolers. Little did we know we're just going to be freshmen and be destroyed by the seniors and juniors that were hazing, because back then hazing was sanctioned. Hazing was sanctioned.
You were about to be an intern into the program. Yeah, that's where you were.
Yeah.
I mean, we spanned different times. My brother and Eric were there at a different time after you and I had gone off. We were in the military.
Yeah.
And
I remember that 86. And Len, you and I was looking through some old pictures. Because I joined Dodds. I've been with Dodds now for over 20 years, and I've been a teacher, and I taught in Germany for many years, up in Graf, and then I became an administrator, an assistant principal, and a principal. And I was, like you mentioned, with Mike Walker, I had been in Korea and Germany as a school administrator, and then went to a district here in the States down in Fort Benning. I was in Georgia with the Southeast District. So Dodds doesn't exist anymore. It's become DODEA, and it's called DODEA Europe, DODEA Pacific, DODEA Americas. And now I'm here at the Mark Center at headquarters. So I do the accreditation. I manage the accreditation of all DODEA schools. We got about 163 DODEA schools, and which includes all those in Italy. I'm glad to see none of those have closed up and gone away. They're still there. They're still going strong. But through that, I've been kind of back into the Dodds DODEA family and world. And I've just, from going through all the way to 86 and then becoming a teacher, now I've been 20 years. I've been in Dodds DODEA, 40 some years.
Yeah.
Over time. Yeah.
You've been running into people like, meeting them at the bus stop here and there, different parts of the world. And then what did you do, Eric? What was your path? I mean, what you do now, you do like PR and stuff now, right?
Yeah. So, I had dual citizenship, being born in Italy and having a Italian mother. And so, back then, when you turned 18, you had to decide if you were going to keep your U.S. citizenship or not, because you had that 1 year of military service obligation in Italy, La Naya, that you had to join the military. So I know, David had to make the decision. And right when I was about to, the NATO organization passed a new regulation that if you served in the military of any of the members, it would satisfy any requirements of the other countries. And so I ran a recruitment office over there with Sergeant Kershey, who was recruiting half of my class.
Oh, wow.
And basically signed up, and so graduated in June, and then was off the basic in September. And of course, in August, Operation Desert Shield had started. So I did my basic, my AIT, and then shipped off to Saudi Arabia. Was attached to the 18th Airborne Field Artillery, and basically did the famous hook across Iraq into Basra and then back down, for the war. And what's ironic is I was thinking, I've never been to the United States with the exception of that blur of 8 months that we were in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And in a way, I thought being in the military environment stationed stateside might be a nice way to get acclimated, because I would be familiar with the military environment before I went full board civilian U.S.,
Training wheels.
But I got stationed in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and to an MP unit. And we ended up rotating down to Honduras for like 6-8 months. And then I came back for a little bit and then was sent down to Panama City for 6 to 8 months. And so I saw very little.
They're like, we're going to send you back to where you came from, somewhere else. Right.
So when my time was up, I returned to Vicenza just to kind of, figure out what colleges I wanted to go to and use the GI Bill. So I ended up getting a job at NAF Contracting there in Torre de Cuartizolo. And then took some night classes at the University of Maryland there at the base. And then, applied to University of Maryland here in College Park because we had family close by. And then ended up coming to University of Maryland. Yeah. And then when I graduated, I kind of worked different jobs. I worked for the Department of Justice up in New York City for a while. I worked for Johns Hopkins Health System in Baltimore. And then, funny that you mentioned the circus, because for about 7 years I worked
the circus.
Entertainment.
Yeah.
I lost you there. You kind of went mute for some. Say that again, because you went mute for a second.
Where did you lose me, Ken?
You were talking about entertainment. I lost you at entertainment. It says my connection's a little unstable. Yeah.
Yeah. I had ended up working for an entertainment company that produced shows like Disney on Ice and Monster Truck and Motocross. And they also did the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Yeah. And so I was a national publicist for the circus for like 6 years.
It was intuition. I knew there was some circus in you.
You had that connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I've been for the last close to 9 years working for a global French company that does managed services. So like food service in universities and hospitals, a lot of federal agencies. We do a lot for the Marines. And so basically managing their crisis and proactive communications there. So
learning to become an American. Right?
Yeah.
Learning to become an American. Right?
And,
there you go.
And I blame my brother. I blame Eric because I finished. I went to we graduated in '86, Len. Then I went to Western Maryland College, which now is it's near Baltimore, and it's called McDaniel College. They changed the name. Yeah. So I did my 4 years, and still clueless as to what I wanted to do. That's what you did. You went to college for 4 years and came out just as clueless as you were when you went in. So I was kind of walking around aimlessly that summer, lifeguarding. And Eric graduated that year because I graduated college in '90. Eric graduated Vicenza in '90. And then Eric said, "Hey, I got this recruiter guy. Why don't you come and talk to him?" Biggest mistake, because next thing I know, I'm in the Army. And I was a language, basically I was a linguist. So I was a Russian linguist and came to DLI there in Monterey, San Francisco.
That's a sweet duty station, by the way.
Sweet. So I studied Russian. That's where I met my wife. We ended up married. And then I did a little bit, a tour, went down to Texas, then I was in Louisiana, and that's kind of where I did that's where I got the itch to become a teacher. And so then got into teaching, and I came back up to Maryland because this is where my old college was, and got a degree. And then from there got into DODEA and became, and then just started teaching. And wife, 3 kids. Now this is great. All 3 of my kiddos graduated from DODEA schools. My 2 boys graduated from Seoul High School in Korea, and my daughter from Ramstein High. So there's probably a few folks here that are going to join the listen in on the podcast that kind of fanned out. I know Mike Walker mentioned he was up in Heidelberg, and yes, that's a true story. Senior year, it was a girl that I met on a Greece tour, Greece cruise. It was all the teen centers, and we all joined up to go on this Greece cruise. And I met her, and she was from Heidelberg, and sure enough, she was friends with Mike Walker. And then I went up for New Year's, and I was with Mike and her and another friend. And there we are, hitting all the beer gardens and driving around in the middle of the night in '85 for New Year's in Germany, in Heidelberg, watching the fireworks go off. So that was pretty cool.
Are you sure that it wasn't Mike's girlfriend and he said, okay, it's Dave Dinges, the big football player, I won't say anything, and I'm just...
Yeah. So he was telling the truth. Mike was telling you, and he was a great host. He had me for a week at his place. It was great. And it was nice because Mike and I go back like we do, Len.
Yeah.
Back to elementary school. I mean, way back in the early days. And I think Mike might have been I think he was in Mr. Benanti's class with us, if I remember correct. But you mentioned that who we've run into over the years. Now, Len, you got me in Facebook Because remember, I didn't have a Facebook, and I came back from Korea, and I was down at Fort Benning, and then I joined up, and you're like one of the first buddies I had, and you're like, hey, I'm going to send you all the folks. And then it all opened up. But over the years, because I kind of reconnected through Dodds and Dodia, I've run into, and I kind of jotted down a few names of just folks along the way. And this is crazy. But early on in the 90s, Sheila Henderson, because Sheila was in 6th grade. I mean, she was in elementary school with us too. I mean, I had Claudia Van, Sheila, Roseanne Bonamago.
Oh, we lost you. We lost you at Rosanna. Come back.
Oh, Rosanna, yeah. And you can just see there's like a cohort. We're a cohort. There's a little cohort of us that traveled through, I mean, almost a decade through Vicenza Elementary, junior high, and high school. But so Sheila I ran into here in DC at one point. Tracy Galindo, he was the school liaison officer in Vicenza when I was a teacher in Germany. I used to go down and visit my mom. Of course, she was in Camisano. Mom had a house there at Santa Maria. Funny story, when I was a teacher in Graff Elementary, I was teaching there. So I have all of a sudden, someone asked for me at the main office. I go down there, and who is it? Candace Dean. Candace's daughter was in my son's class. So her daughter Alexis and my son Luke were in class together. And Candace saw my name, and she said, I know this guy. And sure enough, Candace and I reconnected. She's a counselor. Now, she's in Dodia as well. She's a counselor in Korea. And I saw her. I went there TDY last year, and we got to take some pictures there. Yeah, she's at Humphreys. So wonderful to see Candace. Ed Stevens, you know, his mom's Italian like ours. He's part of that network of Italian Americans. And Ed, I ran into in Launchstool. He was a vet, an Army vet. And so we ran into each other, had dinner together several times. Of course, Mike Walker. And another funny story. So I'm at just a training, and I mentioned that I was a Dodia student, graduated from Vicenza. And I happened to talk about, you know, we were talking about favorite teachers, a teacher that sticks out in your mind. Of course, Mr. Bonanti's mine. You know, that's the one that's the gold standard for me. And so after, in a break, this gentleman walks up to me. He's probably a good 10 years younger than I am. And he says, you had Mr. Bonanti. And I said, yeah, Mr. Bonanti in 1980. And he said, well, I had Mr. Bonanti as a teacher in 1990. Like, it was,
wow.
He said, like 10 years later, his name's Nick Smith. And he graduated. I don't know that he graduated from Vicenza, but he had Mr. Bonanti for that year. So here we are. I'm sitting there with a Vicenza student who had same teacher as me 10 years later, but we had the same experience with Mr. Bonanti. It tells you what a good teacher he was.
It's funny because we're like a small town that travels the world. You know what I mean?
And we share that common history, the common connection. I really appreciate Cleta Frigo, Miss Frigo, because when I went back to Vicenza, I used to visit. I go by the school, and then she was so sweet because I didn't have any yearbooks over the years. They've gone lost. And so she went and copied like all the yearbook pictures that had me in them. And then she put them together and then gave them to me. And I thought that was just the sweetest thing. And so Cleta was a connection. She recently retired, and I was sad to see that, but she was a big connection for me. But I don't know if you can see this, Lenny.
Wow, look at that.
Who are those two guys?
Look at that hair. Golden hair.
Look at that.
Glorious locks. Right.
We're, Dempsey and Dingus, Doliani, Del Rosso.
Right.
We were always like together in the yearbooks. It's like I look at all the pictures.
Letter D.
It's always just letter D. And then Dee Dee Earl, my best bud. Dee Dee Earl was always right after us with the Earl.
So I was gonna ask you, not to cut you off, but I was gonna ask your brother, who did you run into? Who did you run into?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there was a group of 4 or 5 of us that started. Jimmy Zucchino and I think we're in kindergarten together, and then 2nd grade, and there was Kelly Trunham was there in 2nd grade, Danny Myers, Daniel Torgeson, and then through the years, the Doyles were part of Stephanie Doyle. I'm sure I'm leaving a lot of people, but they kind of went through and then reconnected in high school when people kind of came back. I mean, I sort of was the steady drumbeat throughout all 12 years because I was always there, but would see people come in and out. And so the people I've kept in touch, I was just talking to Jimmy Zucchino yesterday on the phone, seeing how he got up to Vicenza and everything okay. And we've kept in touch throughout the military. When I told you I went back to Italy for a little bit, waiting for college, he was at Augsburg, at the University of Maryland in Augsburg. So I had to go visit him up there. And so his brother, Alan Zucchino as well, when they were at Rutgers, I would run into, and I was at the University of Maryland, I would hang out with the Zucchinos up there. The Liebernites, Alan and Chris Liebernight, were in New Jersey at that time. And in fact, after I graduated and my first job was in New York, I crashed at Alan's place. And Alan Liebernight gave me his room until I could find a place in New York proper. And then I would run into Matt Goldstein to Skippy often, again, because my job with the entertainment company brought me up to New York to do all the morning shows, Today's Show and CBS Early Show. And so I'd always stop by the Renaissance and catch up with him if he was there. One time we just randomly ran into each other as I was walking, in New York. So yeah, a lot of people that were there for a good while with us, I still keep in touch with, but I would say Jimmy and Brian Jansing he was my neighbor in Villaggio Montegrappa.
Brian Jansing's popping up in all these stories. Yeah, I drink beer with Brian Jansing. It's like,
isn't he doing the beer? That's why he's got the beer. He's doing the beer stuff.
That's what Brian, it is.
Yeah, we were great buddies, particularly when he first moved to Vicenza, and I think Top Gun had come out, so we would ride our bikes and pretend we were Maverick and Goose going to the Villaggio Super Bowl all the time.
Talk to me, Goose.
I think I joined the Navy ideally around Top Gun, unbeknownst to me that Top Gun was out. And in my younger years, I'd get mistaken for Mr. Iceman. I will show you. and my first wife hated that a lot. But that's why she was the first one. I will show you a picture that I can share with you guys. I'll show you the Iceman. Okay, now I'm the round-faced Iceman, but now the Iceman's got a round face too because he's older as well. But over here on the left.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that funny?
Absolutely.
So I walked into the video store and these girls go, "Oh my God, it's the Iceman!"
Iceman.
And I had a very jealous first wife, and they were like, she's like, "He does not. Don't tell him that. It goes to his head." I'm like, come on now. I didn't have a lot going in my head. I grew up in Vicenza. It's not like I was Fonzie on my moped.
Were you playing volleyball with your shirt off every chance you got?
Yeah, I was like, spike the ball.
Spike the ball.
I never went for the frosted tips. I had the haircut. I wasn't, I didn't know.
You rode your motorcycle up to the volleyball court. Yeah,
crazy story. I had that motorcycle years later. And I didn't even know it was that motorcycle. So that's the great irony is you get that motorcycle and you didn't know it was that motorcycle. And like, oh, shoot, I had that motorcycle. Yeah. But some people see a movie, they're like, oh yeah, Travolta's wearing leather pants and lots of jewelry with triangles. Maybe I should wear this.
Hey, you know that because we had one theater, the Post Theater. Of course, we went to the matinees, and gosh, we practically lived there. Enrico, you remember we used to walk from Bertesinella where we lived.
Gosh.
Eric and I would walk hoof it because back in our day, parents didn't get involved with anything, not even giving us a ride anywhere. So Eric and I would hoof it all the way to the theater, watch the movie, hoof it all the way back to Bertesinella. But I remember when Rocky came out, just like that, everybody came out and they felt like they could beat up anybody. They're coming out ready to throw down. So yeah, it depends on the movie. I remember whenever a movie came out, all through the next week at school. Everybody would either be dressed like it, like Footloose when Footloose came out.
God, yeah.
Everybody came to school looking like Kevin Bacon, ready to. I got my wife's laughing over here with the tie, the little tie, and they don't understand us. We got to dance at the teen club, right?
At the teen club. We had to rebel,
we got to pop and lock. You got to rebel. Me and Scott Lewis are popping and locking on the dance floor.
Do you remember how we used to go up to the GIs to get into rated R movies?
Yeah.
We would ask them to buy us tickets, and they would sponsor. Here he's like 8 years old going to like rated R movies with the GIs. And you knew the guy at the cash register knew who our parents, that was, I don't know how many rated R movies.
You made me think of something. You made me think of something. The football trip. David and I think you were with me. We went to the movie theater in Sigonella. And they were playing like Behind the Green Door or something. Like they were higher than R, and it was a Navy base, like it was like, and there was some like old salty sailor, like, yeah, go ahead, kids. Marilyn Chambers movie. For anybody who doesn't know who that is, that's good. But anyways, we're like, what? It was kind of like Valley of the Dolls kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And those are the adventures,
The adventures, because growing up in Italy, it was nice to grow up without all the kind of scrutiny and safety and concern. I mean, we went out, Enrico, we used to go out. We're running through cornfields and fields, because in Bartesinella, there was we're amongst all the Italian kids. Eric and I think, and Eric can second this, we would come to school on post. And that's where the Americans were. So we were in our American mode. Then we'd go back and get off in Bartesinella, go home, and it was all the Italian kids. So now we switch mode. We're in Italian mode, and we're playing with the Italian kids. And it was just nice because, back you went on a bike, no helmet, no this, no that. You went out for hours. My parents figured we'd come home at some point. And then Enrico, right, venimos casa quando siamo pronti, quando avevamo fame. Right, when we're hungry.
Pasta.
So,
I said it was like,
hey, ora da mangiare.
Yeah.
So we would, we'd go, and the Dolianis live right near us. So I remember playing a lot with the Dolianis.
The Abbotts were out there too.
Yeah, the Abbotts, and so so it was just nice growing up in that kind of environment. It was just a lot more freedom. So I remember seeing the Italian tabaccaio. All the porn mags were right in front of us as soon as you walk in. It was just a less.
We didn't have the internet. That was the internet.
There was none of that.
The internet, and you didn't have the passcode. Unless you're
right.
There you go. You're gonna walk in the door.
We just went, and it was just a more free time. I think we just had less worries.
I think that benevolent neglect that the parents had also gave them a lot of time. As a parent now, I'm like 24/7, vigilant on my girls, and just a different thing. I can't imagine how relaxed our parents must have been to have that sense of freedom that they didn't have to worry so much about structured play time and putting people, because we just made our own. But I think I was talking to Jimmy Zucchino about this quite a bit over the years, that for us that had an Italian parent and an American parent, particularly Italian mother and an American father, and grew up in Italy, you were never quite American enough to feel American. You were never quite Italian enough to feel Italian. Yeah. So if we were with our Italian friends, we'd be like, "Ciao, America, vieni."
Ciao, America, yeah.
Hey, Americano.
On the base,
Americano, hey.
I wasn't really conscious about like college sports and how important they were, to kids that age. I didn't have those connection points, So it was interesting. We always talk about that we needed an island in the middle of the Atlantic where people like us could kind of figure it out, I remember clearly in second grade, Jimmy and I sharing a Nutella sandwich in the cafeteria, and all the kids going like, "Oh, that's disgusting." Chocolate.
That's funny.
As they ate their peanut butter sandwiches, we're like, "What, peanuts, right?"
You put peanut on a bread, Yeah.
There was these kind of cultural norms that we never quite were 100% there or here, and so it could be very, challenging at times to kind of, be there.
I think I have the character nailed for you. This guy made me think as somebody kind of trapped in the middle, or an Italian that hung out with the Americans, but you got to see this guy. I'm going to share this with you. Not familiar. Do you guys know about Johnny Blue Jeans?
Somewhat, yeah. I've heard of Johnny Blue Jeans. Yeah. Johnny Blue Jeans.
It kind of reminded me of somebody because you had American alpha culture, then you had a softer side of Italy that was sweeter, and it was more metro, and then you had like American, like I wear jeans, karate, you know what I mean? Eat lots of beans, whatever. But then you had an Italian, like there'd be Italian guys trying to date the American girls. And they might not know it because Italian fashion's all over the place. They could be wearing some pink pants and a yellow shirt, and they're moving. I like you. Come home with me, baby. You're very pretty. Be my girlfriend. I love you. Cat calling, and they're like, "You're a dork, dude." I like the way I saw it on the movie on Post. I was kind of feeling the Kevin Bacon vibe. I don't know, Mario. It's not that some girls didn't date some of the Italian guys, but I understand the duality because my mom was German American.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And we'd go to Germany. We had relatives everywhere, kind of like you guys probably did in Italy.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a lot of relatives there too?
Oh,
yeah. All of our family is Veronese. My mother's Veronese. So Verona, and I don't know if a lot of folks knew this of Eric and I, but our mother is an opera singer. She sang at La Reina for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
And she sang at La Reina di Verona, and every summer she was there, and she would do the opera. She was on the Coro Stabile, which is the stable choir that's kind of a sign there. Mm-hmm. And she sang with Pavarotti, Domingo, Carrera, Spocelli. She's got quite an amazing career. And so all the summers we would go to Verona. San Zeno in Centro is where my nonno used to live. So when my mom would go to the opera, we'd be there with my Italian grandparents. So we even had another layer there because we did sort of the post Vicenza American thing through my dad being in the military and coming to Vicenza schools. Then we'd go to Bertesinella and we had our sort of Vicenza life with the kids around there. And Vicenza and Bertesinella, there was this one building that was all Americans. You remember that, Rico?
Yeah, the green one. Yeah.
The green one on the corner where the bus stop was. And it was kind of contracted to the Americans. So that was a whole building of Americans. So they used to have like the American versus the Italian kid fights, that was fights. It looked more like something West Side Story, and they broke in dance at a certain
dance
point.
Off. Some dance off.
The dance off, right?
Some high kicks. Yeah.
High kicks.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, did you watch Rocky and then like get a garbage can and start singing doo-wop on the corner?
No, hey, that was at the bridge parties, Len. Remember the bridge parties? Yeah, I won't say what you used to do at the bridge parties.
Of course. I was an instigator. I lived on the dual world because I learned Italian at 5, and I had my neighbor friend Paolo Serafini and another neighbor Mario, and I had the Spadaros. So I spoke Italian. Sean spoke Italian. We would take competitive swimming, and that's where I met Mark Parkins over by the Palace Court.
Freddie and Mark.
And Mark, they were like two of the fastest swimming kids in Texas. I was used to just swimming and winning. These two guys show up and they're like, shroom. I'm like, but no idea that they were the best out of a huge state. You know what I mean? They were like heading towards Olympic levels.
Yeah. Freddie was all state swimmer, I think, if I remember. Yeah.
He was rated like the 5th or 7th fastest in Italy at 15.
He had the most beautiful butterfly that I've ever seen. I mean, Fred could do a butterfly because he was a lifeguard too. And we did, and he was one of my best friends in high school was Fred. But I remember he had that butterfly. Nobody could compete.
You guys hung a lot. Well, that's by being with those Italians and more Italians. And then I wanted more of my American rock and roll than my Adriano Celentano vibe. Definitely not leaning into Renato Zero. If any of you
Zero,
that was not my idol. I'm like, I'm confused about his message. I want AC/DC. That's more, and that's where more acceptance on the post. So, different
you could go back and forth, and we would break because for Eric and I, we'd go to Verona, and that's where all our cousins were. So that would be a whole nother layer for us when we hung out with our cousins, and there it was immersed, just 100% Italian, Veronese, and that dynamic there with our cousins. So we had a lot of different sort of experiences at the same time. And like Eric said, we were always never quite, we were kind of Italian to Americans. We were kind of American to the Italians. We were sort of in between. But I do appreciate the cohort. Like Zacchino had Italian mom, some of the Dolianis. Hey, I ran into Mike Doliani here in Falls Church. We ran into each other. I'm in a Barnes and Noble, going through the Barnes and Noble. All of a sudden, guy comes around the corner. He says, Dingus. And I'm like, Doliani. So ran into Mike here. He's here in Northern Virginia too.
That's
so
nice.
Yeah. So we so there's those cohorts that, are those Italian parent, American parent dynamic that only we understand, because we all share the same kind of challenges. Having an Italian mom, try to figure out the American school.
Well, but then all the other kids were fish out of water. They couldn't dominate it like you just rolled into Georgia or Kentucky or Texas or something, because they were a stranger in a strange town themselves.
Yeah.
But some people might have, pretended like, act as if, and I already run this place. Like, yeah, the teen club and the base. Let's go into my world. Let's step out on the number 1 bus and go see how much you know of this world. But we were pretty good, I think, as little ambassadors. We were there the long time, so we're like the deep historians. Eric, my brother, me, the Richies, the Millers, the Telleritos. Most teachers stayed there a lifetime, 20, 35, 40 years.
And we had so many teacher couples, husband and wife teacher couples that were there. You don't see that as much in the schools. I've noticed that that's not as common now. The dynamics changed. But back when we were in school, gosh, I remember the Chulas were together, the Pelleritos and the Richies and the Martins and the Lindens. I mean, you can name a good almost dozen couples that were there. And that was nice, because it was like Len, it was like a family in the end. Yeah.
In the end. Do you guys remember the summer camps in Marzotto and Jesolo?
Yes.
I have vivid memories of Bart Draculich and Sean and all of us being there. And what an amazing opportunity for a summer camp to be there. And we were amongst all the Italians. And I remember our breakfast was like Fruity Pebbles and all these cereals. And the Italian kids had like the chocolate milk with like bread,
brioche.
butter.
Brioche. Caffè latte pan. Yeah.
I'm like, give me breakfast. At least when I went to Spain recently, they had breakfast, man. I was like, what's this coffee and bread combination here, right? That was not, I was like, you guys, and then, well, how about this? Alan Bruzzo came there towards the end, like last couple of years, as his parents own a winery still there, Cabruzzo Winery, out towards, trying to think, Suave or in that area or something like that. And, I met him. His dad had worked for Bechtel. They bought a winery. They had dual citizenship, so they bought a winery, and he was going to our school. But he loved to come to my house. He played basketball. I was like, ooh, cereal. Oh, Kraft cheese, macaroni, like American grocery food from the commissary was like a big kick. But then you had to habituate to the Italian. So I went and visited him one time, and I'm just thinking, oh, we're going to drink all their wine. We're going to go to his winery. But, his dad's like, here's some machetes, go work. We're chopping this stuff, and my hands are so torn up, man. I'm like, hard labor. You know what I mean? It takes work to do this stuff. This is not easy. That wine comes from some grind. That is a tough job to be a farmer. A lot of us ran off to offices and stuff like, oh, well, farm maybe one day, not now. Maybe when I'm 60. No. Yeah, right. But seeing him out there, he's still there. He's still running the winery. He has his family. They do some stuff, interact with the Americans.
I miss the food. I definitely miss, one of the things I remember in Vicenza and was back in the 70s, even the 80s, how much better the food was. It just seemed like we grew up no fast food. We didn't have any fast food in Italy. And just growing up, fast food was whatever my nonna made or my mom made quickly. That was the fastest food I was going to get. But it was just, I remember being in Verona in my nonna's kitchen and her saying, hey, clean this and, get the peas out of the pods or, clean this chicken out, because she'd bring home a chicken with the head and the guts. And she's like, pull everything out and clean it while I'm doing this. And I just remember everything just being less processed, more, just better. The restaurants, the ristoranti, pizzeria, how they put everything together. And just then when I came, I think the biggest shock for me leaving, graduating after Vicenza, and I think maybe a lot of us share this, was the culture shock of the food. When I got stateside and I went to college, man, it tore my stomach up, my system. I wasn't kind of used to what the American sort of people were eating, and just their version of pizza, which was nothing what we were used to in Italy, and the pasta. And I'm like, what the hell's an Alfredo? What's this? What's that? And then, so to me, that was probably the biggest change that was difficult for me, coming culture shock. And just being a dual cultured family, Eric and I coming into sort of a one culture, and I was in a little town outside of Baltimore in Maryland. So it was challenging. Those years I had to kind of figure things out, where I fit in and what I liked and what I did. Now I kept on trying to recreate Italy, a little bit of Italy for me in those environments, because that's what was keeping me going.
You go to an Italian restaurant and try to make friends with the owners,
Absolutely.
Right.
And yep. And try at least is the owner, is the chef, I still do that.
Right.
I went into DC. There's a little restaurant called I Canale. You got to go. It's I Canale. It's right there in DC. Yep, owner's Italian. I called the general manager. He's an Italian guy, and came States, and he's got a family, but they're still strong Italian, and so it's nice. It's nice when the waiter's Italian. You start talking. I found that when I was in Germany a lot of the ristoranti in Germany, the Italian ones, they're all Italian, which is nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, I have friends that I made for the last 25, 30 years that are from Sicily that have been my friends forever. And I go to their house and it tastes like Italy. When they cook, it's better than any restaurant. It's natural. How about you? Yeah. How about you, Eric? Did you have that same thing? Like adjusting? I wanted the artificial food. I craved Burger King. I craved craft food when I was a kid. Now, not so much, but back then, man, I want, because it was the scarcity principle. You can't have this. Yeah. Like we came back to the States with my dad, like every couple of years. We're in Boston. I'm like, Dad, give me 2 Big Macs and a Happy Meal. Yeah. I just wanted to
you remember
on the American experience.
Yeah, when they made, I remember our senior year, Len, they put Burger King right there. And I remember, I think the first time I went there was Dee Dee Earl and I went over there, and that was the first experience. Wow, fast food there. So then from there it exploded. But Enrico, share your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think what was surprising to me in Italy, there was how many people ate on the base. You remember that pizzeria that was right next to the snack bar, between the bookstore and the snack bar, and all the GIs and some of the high schoolers would go there, but they had American kind of style pizza. And you would get the picture of, people get the pictures of beers and be there. And there was always this Italian guy that would call out the numbers to let you know that the pizza was ready. It was so loud in there. So he'd be like, pepperoni pizza 45. Pepperoni pizza, number 45. And then he would start cussing in English. God, I say 45. And then finally the GI would straggle over and get the pizza. So I have such a vivid memory of that place. But, I kind of felt like that pizza was good. It was different than what you would get out.
It was pizza. It was Pizza Hut-like. It was very not Italian, but it was cheap, and the beer was very cheap. $2 a pitcher, $2.50 a pitcher. That's why you went there, I think, right? But great place for lunch. During your senior year. During your senior year is a good place for lunch. But
you remember, we used to be able to go to lunch at a school. You remember we'd go to the bowling alley to eat, go across the North 40, which, by the way, the North 40 doesn't even exist anymore. It's like this little patch of dirt. And because they put the track, remember, Len, they built that track our senior year, and they hadn't quite finished it.
And the roller skate, they started with that big roller skating rink that became
there'd be something else. I think now it was a tennis. Now they put tennis courts in there or something, and then then they built a bunch of buildings on there. I was there a couple years ago for 4th of July, visiting my mom with my daughter, and I remember seeing the North 40, going, wow, you could see across the North 40 and it was just all field. We used to practice out there, football, soccer, track and field. I remember Fred and I would go do shot put and discus over on the side there. Remember that hill that the airborne guys used to go jump off the hill?
Yeah, and we'd use it for football practice. We
we used to carry each other that crazy hill, and they, you know, the guys would jump like they were doing practice jumps as airborne troopers, and
they used to let us do that for 4th of July. Remember, they give you the tickets, and you could actually do that.
You were airborne, right, Eric? You went airborne, right?
I was attached to an airborne unit, but I was a leg. I was with them just through the Gulf, and then I got reassigned to when I got back, because I never really had a unit. They just put me with them during the war, and then as soon as I got back, I went back. So,
I just wanted to ask, because we were all jumping off that tower like whoopity-doo, but I know, like, when you look at videos of drown proofing in the Navy, I talked about this other day, guys get, oh my gosh, don't push me off this tower, like they can't swim, they're terrified. And there's people that realize that they're actually terrified of heights. They never jumped out of a tower. But if you could show all the little Vicenza Cougar kids, woo, in their jean jackets, jumping off that tower, I was like, yeah, cool, man. I never thought about the side of death or hurting yourself. Yeah. But there's people that do show up. They show up at a jump tower, and they freak out. That would be, I'll find somebody that was airborne, like, oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I'll bring that story back. But Eric brought back that pizzeria. That was my last place I was hanging out a lot.
Yeah. And I always remember that guy, man. He used to crack me up because he'd get so upset.
No pizza for you.
No pizza for you.
And you know, that snack bar, before everything, you remember, now they've kind of created a food court and all that, but before that, it was just that little snack bar in the corner. There was the commissary, the PX, and then the snack bar in the corner. And then the snack bar had hot and cold, like they had the grill. Then they had what they would consider more gourmet food type of thing.
Afy's Burger. Afy's Burger.
Afy's Burger.
That was good, actually.
It was actually pretty good. Hey, let me tell you, folks probably didn't know this, but the best burger and fries on post in Vicenza through the 70s and 80s was the NCO Club.
NCO Club.
Right, Enrico. NCO Club. Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't know because, you know, they go other places, but the NCO Club had hands down. Mm-hmm. That was really, really good. And that's why it was nice. We used to be able to leave school to go and eat and all like I was saying, you could go anywhere and walk around. And that was kind of a nice freedom we had. Remember, you know,
the mess hall was actually good. The mess hall on post was premium.
Oh, man.
Compared to the Navy chow.
The Carabinieri mess hall, La Mensa Italiana is the bomb too. If you ever get to, the Mensa Italiana, where all the Italians go. Great food.
I used to love the Thanksgivings at the mess hall. I mean, it was always such a fun time to eat there, and you know they fed you well there.
I don't know why I remember those milkshake machines, those silver ones at the snack bar. Remember those things? They're like soft serve, right? We're like, I'm making milkshake. This thing, right? Oh man, but you know.
Now, Len, when's the last time you went back to Vicenza? When have you been back?
89.
Wow. So 89.
I've been to Spain. I've been to Portugal, been to Azores, been all over in the last couple of years. I mean, not even a year ago. My wife and I were in the Azores. We were in Portugal. We were in Seville, and then Albufeira. Then we were over in Tenerife, the island off Africa. So I was feeling Spain. I did not feel ready to run back to Italy because I know what's not there. I know what we're looking for is here on the interweb.
Right.
You know, it is us. We, all of us, all the people on the show, all the people that went to school together, it's like we were all in the same dream. And like I said to Mark earlier today, I said, you know, it's like getting a private concert with a big celebrity. You know, Motley Crue did a concert for us. There was 8 of us. And then you just show your friends and nobody believes you. And when you show up on the stage with your stories, you know, like Mark was talking about, he's like, nobody believed me. I go, well, what were you supposed to do? Act more European? You're so American. Are you gonna bring some Euro swag? I mean, are you gonna wear some like skinny jeans and a Benetton shirt, Mark, and some Italian style bracelet that's happening at the moment that's cool in Italy and hasn't quite made it to the fashion? Because a lot of fashion would come years later from Italy, which we might even thought was dorky at the time, showed up in the States later and it was cool. And that was the weird. That was the weird thing.
It just depends.
So I mean, Italy's fashion, their cars.
You know, it's something that kind of dawned on me, and I've realized it's amazing how many folks stateside don't know about DOD and the military, communities outside of the States. So like when I came and I went to college and I said, well, I'm from Italy. And I said, but I went to an American school. They just couldn't kind of wrap their minds around that. My boys graduated in Korea. And so my middle son, he went to Ole Miss. That's where he went to college. So you can imagine from Korea, he went to Ole Miss. And so they're like, wow, you look different for a Korean guy, and because and I'm like, yeah, he's 6'5", blonde, blue eyes. Yeah, he's a pretty interesting Korean. But it's funny that we are very, very unique because, but we're also very hidden as a culture, that third culture. Most folks stateside, they just don't have any, they're just not familiar with our experiences and where we've been. So it's funny coming back, and even for my 3 kids coming back and their interactions, that they, folks here understand being overseas, like international students, but they don't get the Dodds Dodia student kind of dynamic. They just don't kind of quite get that piece of it. So that was a funny story with my son Luke.
Well, that's the strength of the podcast.
Yeah,
you're talking,
that is, yeah.
You're talking to people that have something in common with you. How many regular civilians have the same common thing? There's guys that played college football together, and then that was at our high school, and then that was it. And maybe if you live in one of those Texas states where you played under the Friday Night Lights, as I like to refer, that has the program, like it's like serious level. Yeah, they have that bond, and maybe they didn't even like it. That might have been like kids being forced to play piano. You never know.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the friendships don't usually stay as deep because maybe your experience wasn't as deep together. And, it's like, it's a different, I have a great bond with a lot of my Navy friends, but it's a different tier in my formative years before the Navy in Italy, because it was dual culture. It was like you were your brain was working on 2 sides, and then you come back and you're like, Alabama, here I am. California, this is me. And that's kind of your style, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
And Len, with being that your dad, of course, being a teacher, and so many of our students had parents who were teachers. So it was like a family for us, being all together there at Vicenza. It was just more of a familial thing, and that's why that bond goes deep. The only thing that's difficult for us is we can't, they do reunions, but they kind of, how do you do reunions? And there's 50 states. People are scattered across the globe. It's so tough. So
here we are.
Maybe virtually, here we are. So virtually, I appreciate you, Len, I appreciate you kind of, because I'm on the Facebook, Vicenza alumni and pictures, and I'm kind of seeing
very, it's nice, but very one-dimensional.
It is. It's one-dimensional.
It's like talking to your friend or looking at a statue that you and your friend stood by 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You're like, exactly. I remember the statue's giving me visions. Perhaps it would. Yeah. Perhaps it might. Uh-huh. I think, I'll be right back. Once you guys, Eric, once you continue, because people are going to watch it and kind of shoot your ideas out. I have to help grab groceries with my wife, and I'm still doing the podcast. So it'll only take me a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Take over.
I was going to say, I think the one nice thing about Vicenza and the military base is how, from a opportunity to explore different things was available. Like the Soldiers Theater, I was big into music, and a lot of my friends, like George Ross and Mike Turner, Glenn Gravel was fantastic, all great guitar players. And then like Bart, Dave Belasco, played the bass and guitar, and then Aldo Boudreau played drums. But we could all go to the Soldier Theater and hang out and rent these, expensive guitars and just play together. I think it was access to those type of things, or you go to the MWR and could rent skis or camping gear, and just, everything was so affordable. So,
yeah. And
then being in Italy at that time when the dollar was so strong, you were just able to do so much. So yeah. I think that the morale welfare part of growing up and having that access, I know a lot of people in the previous pods, cast have talked about going up to skiing, or just grabbing the bus and being able to go to Yeslo. I mean,
Yes.
it was just really affordable to do things that were really entertaining. And I feel that even looking at my kids, how there's really just not those type of opportunities unless you, you know, put them in a membership to a club. You know, you have them in things like Taekwondo and dance and things like that. But, you know, there was just so much going on in the base that was affordable and available that was cool.
It was subsidized.
It was subsidized, yeah.
Yeah, the Yeslo summer camp was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Marzotto, Marzotto. We used to go there, and
we still go when we go back to Italy.
We still go.
Yeah, it's like
we
a
sure
private
do.
place now, but yeah.
You know, and Eric, you're so right, because I think about, you know, I was very fortunate because I was in Dodea on military installations, whether Germany, Korea, even Japan. I was in Japan as well. So my three, because they were in the DoD schools, the Dodea DOD schools, they had that same experience where, you know, they were always kind of subsidized. There was a lot. There was the teen center, the youth center, there was MWR. There's all those things that take care of the military family that help. But I remember Vicenza being kind of a gem because look, we had Rimini, which we did our senior trip, Lynn. You remember? We do Rimini, we do Jesolo, or we go Lido di Venezia. If we wanted just to escape on the train real quick, we go down to the Lido. And but then if we wanted the mountains, like Enrico, you were saying, Schio, Asiago, we could hit that. There was Lake Garda. We want to do the lake, Lake Garda was right there. So everything was so close, whether you want the ocean or, you know, the sea, the mountains, the lakes. And then you come to the States, and that was a big challenge for me because wherever you are, it is so much work to try to get to the ocean or the mountains because it's just a bigger country. There's so much more space. So it does, I think, limit a lot. And then the communities are huge. I mean, I'm in Northern Virginia.
Depends where you live.
It does.
I'm like quick shot to everything, but you pay for it. You pay for it out there. You want it, you're going to pay a lot for that kind of, landscape, you know?
Yeah. Well, Lynn, I thought I saw on the news your tent over in San Francisco, right? Don't you got one of them tents on a sidewalk? I thought I saw your tent on the sidewalk.
It's right next to the beach, man.
It's a double wide tent, right?
That's where I throw all the parties and, you know, the Cougar parties now. I've been doing it ever since. Never stopped doing those.
Never stopped.
Those were the best. We hung out there, actually, David and I, in San Francisco. Yeah, we
did. That was a really fun, couple of days I was there for that week, TDY. But it was nice to get together, Len. I enjoyed. We got to really reminisce and talk a lot about just our lives and how things have happened. Again, it goes back to we're family. We really are family. You know, we have a lot, and every now and then memories will pop in my head because if I go on Facebook and I'll see a name or someone will post a thought or whatever, like Cindy Graff, she popped up and I see her post and I remember I was just going through some pictures and there she is. And like, I think maybe third or fourth grade with me and we're in the same class. So some of us have been, 40 years that we've known each other, that we've had, a connection. So
it's a time machine. It's a time machine. You get in this thing, right?
And when you meet like a few years ago, I was in Los Angeles for work. And so I got together with Hank, you'd mentioned Hank in another podcast at the La Brea Bakery. And you pick up right where you left off. There's such a love, a genuine affection for seeing that person from Vicenza and excited and so happy and proud of what that person's accomplished and what they're doing and where life has taken them. And it's just amazing to see where life has taken a lot of people. And I was listening to a station yesterday, had a country song, and I think the line was, you make your plans and you hear God laughing. And it's true. I think we all had plans leaving Vicenza, and boy, did God get a laugh out of what we were planning to do, And
wow,
some people had no plan though. I mean, think about, I just thought about this. Like, I talked about this on 2 podcasts, how a lot of people get to play on 2 or 3 teams. And if they were at a huge 5,000 kid, 2,000 kid high school, that might be different. Yeah. And most of us might have never even made it to the bench, but maybe we would have, but we would have learned that culture earlier to be pushed that way. And,
Yeah.
because we weren't playing to come back to play for the, the 49ers or whatever, you know what I mean? We were just like, I'm doing this as a rite of passage. But you get that benefit by playing sports or being part of a team, and you get to experience all those. So it gives you kind of a confidence moving forward into your life, right?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, I did that. And then you talk to other kids, oh, I didn't do that. I'm like, oh, okay, why not?
Yeah.
But you didn't
And
understand,
ignorance is bliss. And I think in your 20s, they say the brains don't form until your late 20s or something like that. So thank goodness, because, I really think that most, and I got 3 20-year-olds, 2 boys and a daughter. And I really can see, you really don't know what the heck you're doing when you're in your 20s. You really don't. The brain isn't formed yet. It's still there. It misses a few beats every now and then. And I'm like, but ignorance is bliss. When I hit my 20s and I left Vicenza and I went to college, got out of college. Thank God, Enrico, you pointed me towards Sergeant Kersey, and I joined the military. Gave me some time there, and really, I guess from what I'm hearing and what I'm even seeing in my own kids, is you don't hit your stride till about your late 20s, almost 30, is where all of a sudden you kind of work through all the kinks. You start to know, those goals and dreams, like, those dreams of grandeur of what you're going to become. The realization that that's not the reality, and that then it is, what are you truly passionate about? Where do you make a difference? Where do you feel fulfilled in your passion in life? And then if it matches up and then your career matches that, then you're blessed.
Well, you mentioned something that made me think. You are the kid from Vicenza. Now you have to go discover who you are. And that's going to come through trials and tribulations of life. Right? You're going to either, you might see another classmate, like, I never finished college, but it never stopped me from doing well at things. Right. So, but I was kind of brainwashed to believe that if you didn't, you're going to get stuck in a, van down by the river. And it's, there's no guarantees, even with a degree. It's, I guess the way I put this to somebody, like, if you're dual culture, you're good at overcoming obstacles. You're a good ambassador. You're good at engaging and creating rapport with people you don't know. You're meeting strangers, and you know how to do it and find something in common with them, especially when all kids come from all 50 states. And a new kid comes from Alabama, and you tell them something like, yeah, I got a friend over at Fort so-and-so. Oh, yeah, Derek Gould. Oh, cool. And all of a sudden they feel a little more at home. So you learn these skills. You're shot out of a cannon. And
yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
And when you're young, you might be assuming that everybody else is kicking butt and you're sucking wind. But if you could have a nice pitcher at the time, there's a whole bunch of people sucking wind, across the board.
Everybody, like you said, everybody's journeys are different, challenges. But in the end, the commonality is we all shared this Vicenza experience, and it's formative, and it kind of gave us those skills that you noted, Len, that helped us become, adaptable, resilient. We were very resilient, I think. When all else fails, you can do like Ted Spittle and give out Nutella jars to everybody. I see, Teddy, you're giving out Nutella jars to everybody. And it's so funny, Enrico, because you said the Nutella sandwiches.
I was bullied for that.
Yeah, you were bullied for those.
Bullied for sandwiches.
And now Spittle's giving them away in big jars.
It's like Italian fashion, man. You're wearing those really cool, orange salmon leather pants, and finally they're in style.
I gotta show you something, Lenny. Imagine going to Fort Leonard, Missouri with that shirt.
Look at that. And look at that. Look, Enrico, is that sheep's ass? Is that your mullet back there I'm looking at?
That's a little bit of that fit in very well in Missouri, but the shirt didn't quite fit.
They rolled up to you. Like Billy Ray Cyrus? I like Billy Ray Cyrus.
Billy Ray?
Who's that? Never heard of him on SEB. But that's the thing. I mean, I picked California because the movies drove me here. David ended up in California. We were here. What years were you here, Dave?
I was there 90 to 91. 90, 91. I finished basic, so I got there around December of 90. got a 4-day pass and went down to LA, brought into New Year's in LA. And then I was there through 91. And and then I left around May. Loved Monterey. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely loved it. So I was there then. And then from there, went to other assignments. But that's why when I came back last year, Len, and we hooked up there in San Francisco, it was really kind of cool to see. Just retouch Monterey and San Francisco in that area. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, well, you come over there. I'm stationed out there at the time. I was still in the military. Kevin Merritt wasn't too far away.
Oh,
he was
Kevin,
over.
Yeah,
he was over at an Air Force base over at Fairfield. So we were all probably walking in each other's shadows, passing each other on the 880, 680, the Highway 1. Walking by, one guy walks in the door, the other guy walks out.
The
door, right? Like you see in a movie clip, right? So I think it's funny. I estimated that I was probably at the same nightclubs as Kevin was, but we never ran into each other. But I did run into Richard Collins, who I did a podcast with, who was with his sister, and he was going to school, and he was actually a Bay Area guy, but I think of him as a Veronese because his family, he's in Verona still now. So and he does tours and all kinds of cool stuff over there and has online schools and stuff. So he's a blast. You'll see his podcast. You'll like that one. It's very like Italian, but to me speaking American English like an Italian. Bra, 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 rapid fire 6 cappuccinos in.
But he talked about the skills, and it's funny when I look back, even now that I'm in public relations or worked, in entertainment, and I remember being, in elementary school, because I spoke fluent Italian, we would go on a field trip to like the Mondadori printing company in Verona.
Right.
And there was I guess the translator for Mondadori wasn't there that day. So they're like, Eric, can you, do the tour? And back then, there weren't a lot of Italians that spoke English.
Right.
It's not like now, like anybody under 10 in Italy speaks fluent English, and above. But back then, there were very few. And if they spoke English, it was British.
Right.
You made me think of a story because one time we flew back to Boston and my brother and I were probably about 9 and 6 years old. We spoke Italian and we're wearing our little Adidas outfits and we're with my dad and there's this Italian guy in the Boston airport and he's like, Madonna, qualcuno mi può aiutare? Can somebody help me? He's like, I don't understand. He's freaking out like he can't understand the rental people. I need a car. I need to get to my family. And I go, let me take care of this. Me and my brother walk out. Scusi, signore, ti posso aiutare? Sei così piccoli. It's like, you're so small. Like, look at these miniature translators. America's so progressive.
Very good.
And we got the car for him, and he handed us $100 each. And my dad's like, "No, you can't take that. Give it back to him." It was hilarious. Little 9-year-old kids in Adidas speaking Italian and English.
Speaking Italian.
And then the person at the rental car, he's going, "What the hell is this?" That was pretty funny. So,
and that sounds very familiar for Eric and I. My mom, Italian mom, her English isn't the greatest. So we'd be in the PX and mom would say something in Italian, we'd respond in English. And so there was always that dynamic where we were constantly going between Italian and English. So we could start a sentence in Italian and then be switching over to English in 2 seconds flat. A lot of times dad would say, "What'd your mother say?" Because especially if she started getting hot and upset and then dad's like, "What?" And then we're like, "You might want to get out of here." and might, so that was kind of cool. I think Eric and I really had a kind of it's fun being dual cultured, especially with the 2 languages, because there's, one night we're having chili, the next night we're having, spaghetti alla matriciana or risotto coi funghi or tortellini alla panna, and then, we have meatloaf. So that's the beauty of being Italian American.
I think our class probably was really good at eating tortellini alla panna. And it explains the size differential of our gray. Maybe it had some pasta eating contests at Mark Parkin's house, perhaps. But it's like here we are all today, and we're going to bring on some of your former buddies. Who do you guys want to see? Who do you want to help me bring on here? Who would you like to be on a podcast with?
hey, Len, maybe Mark Parkins. If you get Mark on, because me, you, and Mark, we kind of had that long journey together. I mean, we're a cohort that goes way back, and
For sure.
yeah, that would be really cool, and to touch base. And I still remember one of the funniest memories I have. It was when, remember when Children of the Corn came out?
Yeah.
So when Children of the Corn came out at the Post Theater, and we used to always go to late night movies, and it was always a late night. It was, I think, around 11. Then everybody would cut through Stanga and go through to Villaggio. There was that little cornfield.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'll never forget, you and Mark, you guys grabbed corn stalks and you were beating everybody that was coming back from the theater to Villaggio, scaring the shit out of them.
Oh my goodness.
And one that I remember was Tracy Galindo. You guys, I think it was Tracy, and he still remembers, and maybe even that might have been at a
bridge party.
Bridge
It was
party.
a bridge party. Oh
that
my
was
goodness.
the bridge party where you guys were smacking Galindo with the corn stalks. But I still have memory of you
we
two
weren't
with
trying
those
to hurt
corn
him,
stalks.
but we were just.
No. You were. It was Children of the Corn. It was good.
Yeah.
Everybody was scared of the corn. Remember how many corn stalks there were in?
Yeah,
in
we popped
Vicenza?
up on him. We're like, Children of the Corn. It was
Corn.
People remember the craziest things. I mean,
Yeah.
I did not know that years ago in my ship. This is not the Navy. I mean, this is not Italy, but this guy goes, I remember you, and this is off kilter. He's like, you were the dicks of destruction. I'm like, what? And I'm like, what's that? And so somebody, like, we were supposed to come up with a pro wrestling name, and we were supposed to wrestle these officers. And I was looking forward to it because I worked out all the time, and these skinny little officers annoyed me. So, I was enlisted. And they're like, okay, we got the Love Brothers and the Dicks of Destruction. It was DOD. It was DOD. I used DOD as my acronym. And I was just throwing them around in this TV studio. Get over here. It was just hilarious. And they're like, just all caught up because they're little weaklings. But it was fun. I'm like, holy donut. That's mean. Children of the Corn, throwing officers around on top of a Navy ship and a TV station. But other than that, then I started praying a lot, and I get some bunny rabbits. And now I just...
Now you're just now you're honest and calm and
just
settled.
Sweet and innocent. Where's my medication? Where's my medication?
Your medication has helped you mature.
Right. I mean, it's what was like. I like to point this out. Like, there's people that left there that didn't feel validated or didn't feel important, but were more remembered than they knew, and more special to us than they knew.
I think
another
so.
great point. You agree with that?
Well, I was going to say, I was just rereading and preparing for this in a way, just looking back at the year, because I was cleaning out a storage area, and I came up on and just reading the notes people left. And I know that's kind of like a day in a moment in time. But when you start to read what people kind of wrote about you, or just the impact you had during that year, it's a lot different than what you may remember you think people thought of you there, because then you maybe focus on a negative incident, or, so it was kind of, it was nice to kind of look back and read those passages and say, no, actually, maybe I did have a positive impact on some people there, particularly those that were like, well, my time is up and I'm going back to the States, but these last 2 years or 3 years, X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of.
And Enrico, that's all right. What I've noticed is, like, we were born on post, and we spent, and Eric, because you're a little bit younger than me, so you were there kindergarten all the way through graduation, and I was there from second through graduation. And some folks who only came maybe a tour of duty, maybe they were there 2 years or 3. What an impact!
6 months.
Or 6 months.
Yeah.
What an impact Vicenza had on them, that they still, after 20, 30, 40 years, remember it and think about it and miss it. And it was just such a big part of their life. I went to, and this is crazy, I went to a doctor's office and happened to have an appointment. So I meet this new doctor. This was back in the 90s. And I'm sitting in there, and he was looking at my chart and my personal information, and I had there that I was born in Italy. And he said, oh, well, we're in Italy. And I said, oh, I was born in Vicenza. And he kind of smiled. I said, and he said, wow, I was there. And I said, really? He said, yeah, I was there the last semester of my senior year because my dad transferred there and I graduated from Vicenza High School. And he was there just like that, like you said, like 6 months or just those months to graduate. And he just had that, and he was, I think he did graduate in the 70s. He was an older gentleman. And it still resonated. He still talked about how much he loved Vicenza, what an impact. And he was there. He made a few friends because he was only there the last semester. Imagine that, the life of a military child.
Yeah, just
he
the
was there.
desert island test. Fast friends fast.
Fast friends fast, and it
is.
still resonated with him
right.
that he was there. So it definitely. No matter how it impacted you, whether, like you said, Len, you felt validated or you felt like it was something you were a part of or not, it still resonates. It still had an impact going into Vicenza, Italy, the culture, the life, the impact.
I could have left there going, screw that place, because I left there in trouble. But the people I met, it still mattered to them. It still mattered to me.
Yeah.
My one experience with a stupid CID officer that had nothing better to do than to stalk a high school guy that wasn't selling drugs but being accused of it. And just people like, oh, I'll, with their little power things like the media, I will call him a loser, and then the whole world will. It's like people throw you under the bus, and I didn't want to worry about walking on eggshells because I didn't care if I grew up around. I had to abide by the military culture before I was in it. Had to abide by the school culture, had to abide by the Italian law, American law. I'm like, you're giving me 4 law books here. I don't want to abide by anything. I want to be me, Sinatra, baby. So at the end of the day, some of us had more rebellion. Some people were busy, distracted, doing good things like you and your brother, productive things,
Well, I appreciate that.
Look at that.
Yeah, and Eric and I, honestly, because Eric and I, in the same household, we were best buds, and we were 4 years apart, but best buds, and we kind of went through this all together. And at different points throughout our life, we've just sort of reconnected, and with family, and now we live close by. Eric's, up in Maryland. I'm here in Virginia. So it's always nice to reconnect. But when we get together, it's always, there it is, back together. It's like Vicenza is in us.
Yeah.
And so even though we're not there, it's in us. Like when we got together in San Francisco, Len, it was like Vicenza was there with us. So whenever we meet, and I look forward to hopefully some of these Virginia folks, like Mike and Sheila Henderson. I know Dina Kim's out this way. I've touched base with a few folks. We're hoping to do a little kind of mini reunion here in DC to bring Vicenza back to us. When we come together, it's like Vicenza's there.
You haven't been able to take it away from us ever.
Nah.
Now, maybe you worked at a Sears store in college. You don't remember that, but you remember Vicenza. Maybe, there was something that you did, right? So you look at this whole experience, we're going to bring everybody here. It's getting a lot of views. We have I think Lisa Rolick was at 300 views. Derek was behind that.
Yeah. And I remember Lisa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The group is just going, but I did not hang out with everybody. I knew of everybody. I'd run into everybody. I've made more friends with some people. And so look at, I'll call myself like one of the many that were in the black sheep category. That's just because I didn't want to believe in rules. And I still don't. But really looking at it, I think that it didn't mean, I looked at life and I go, oh, well, you're on this trajectory. It's like if you look at someone's Facebook, oh, look at Billy, he married a model and he's got really big muscles and he drives a Corvette. And well, I'm getting into my Honda Civic and my back hurts. And
I'm getting on public transportation.
Right.
And getting around.
But it doesn't matter where you are, anybody watching this. I don't care if you've been divorced, lost your job, been through,
I'll tell you,
got a record and got out and straighten out your life, whatever.
To me right now, I passed the 5-0. Len, we're past the 5-0. To me, the biggest thing right now is health.
Yeah.
Being healthy. You realize that all the other stuff, whatever, but as long as you're safe and healthy and your family's safe and healthy, That's the most important thing. All the other stuff, yeah, it is what it is, but the most important stuff is safe and healthy. And that's one thing that I appreciated about us growing up in Italy. I mean, the stuff at Enrico, my God, thank God we didn't die a million times in Italy with the stuff we did, bike riding and this and that, whatever. When I think of the near misses that we had just playing and being out and the falls and everything. So I'm just grateful that, we're good, we're safe, we're healthy.
It's the last thing you think about and the first thing to go, is your health. But it's also it's also these times, we have a time for everybody to watch this because they're running out of Netflix. They're running out of the Disney Channel.
Yeah, they are.
ESPN is limited to the UFC, which is fine by me. But
hey, UFC, love it.
Yeah, big but fan. It's not the same without the crowds. But
without
you do
the
get
crowd,
to hear, you get to hear the punches and the cracking. Matter of fact, a kid that I met that comes to the gym where I do all the filming, he's from Vicenza, and he was so surprised to run into a guy that spoke Vicentino.
Vicentino.
And
hey, Tosi, hey.
He's like, Ma. He's like, what were you expecting me to go like? To io posso parlare italiano. Do the American version of it, right? He's like, ma tu sei da Vicenza, davvero? I'm like, yeah. And he's just like, he's just like, wow.
Yeah.
This guy that looks like a German dude is over here speaking Italian. And he's definitely American looking. And he's from Vicenza. So he was sending me Asiago cheese. Tomorrow he has a title fight on Brave FC. He's from Asiago.
Okay. Asiago. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And Enrico and I can speak to this.
His name's Enrico too, by the way.
Oh, Enrico.
Enrico Cortese, yeah.
Enrico Cortese. But every town, every city, so Vicentino and Veronese are different, the dialects. So Eric and I, even in Italian, we'd go between Veronese, Vicentino, Padovano, Veneziano. It's all Veneto, but some things change. And I know we'd go talk to our nonno in Veronese. Then we'd be playing in Bertesinella, speaking Vicentino with the kids there in Vicenza.
And it was amazing was Brian Jansing and Jim, because Jim speaks Napoletano. And Vicentino, and Brian speaks Romano and Vicentino. So even there's like 4 or 5 languages just.
Yeah, it's like a UN in Italy.
Yeah, go try to watch the Robert Saviano's Gomorrah series. The other Sopranos, great TV series, but you're going to need the subtitles because they're speaking really fast Napoletano. And it's a whole different language. Ironically, I went to Spain and I could speak Castellano. I was like, vale. I just quickly, I really figured out instantly in Spanish. My wife was studying it. She's like, you don't know how to speak Spanish? I go, I do. Don't worry. You'll see. I've never spent a day in class studying it, man. I just speak Italian, and it's the Latin breakdown, the prefix and suffix of Latin. And then listening to Mexicans out here in California, picking up their language and speaking with them. And then I go back there and it's not Mexican by far, it's Castilian Spanish. And then you go to Portugal and I'm just keep going, gracias. And they're like, no, obrigado. Because I go back and forth between the two. But it's cool to have that experience. When all this blows over, I plan on traveling more, of course. But I think
same.
It's going to build a monster podcast in the meanwhile.
Yeah, why not? I think it's good. And then if we get more folks, I saw you did it was a four-way podcast, right? With I think I saw Lisa and Derek maybe and a few
Robert Utterbach, yeah.
Got it, Robert. Yeah, that's right. So, we pull some of those together where we can all just kind of.
I can I can put 45 people on here. I just wonder if someone's just going to be holding everybody hostage. There's 40 minutes, and then that one time in band camp. Richie and I, that's going to keep going in that circle, right? There's 45 guys like, it's like each other. So it's almost like a friggin' webinar. Raise your hand, let me in the room. I'm administering the room. So it loses its flow, at least with 3 people. 2 people, it's even better.
Yeah,
4 people is pretty good, but it's different when because I had to play Hollywood Squares. If you listen to that one, I'm like, so Derek, I'm looking at this one. So Lisa, and what do you think?
You have to moderate
fast in my head.
You have to moderate a lot more when you have a big group. It would be kind of cool if we could pull together as many like 86 graduates. So our graduating class, Len, if we could pull together, see how many we could pull together in a podcast of the class of 86, which we were one of the few that didn't get to graduate in the Teatro Olimpico. You remember that?
Yeah.
The one year, I mean, everybody got Teatro Olimpico. The one year we got the Aracelli, which, okay, it was nice, but it wasn't the Teatro Olimpico.
Maybe
So,
you could create a virtual backdrop of the teatro and hold it.
There we go. I like that, Enrico. We'll do Lenny, behind you, you need to put the Teatro Olimpico in the class of 86 and give us a second shot at it so we can graduate.
We had something else, and I'm about to share that with you. And this is what we had. And you're going to like this. This was the Lake Marola graduation party.
Oh, Lago di Marola, yeah.
Yeah, wait, let me go back and find some people you know. Because Fred Puatua rocked this.
Oh my gosh, Fred Puatua.
Puatua, yeah. He played guitar.
You're in this.
There's Kevin.
There's Freddie. There's Dave LeBlanc.
Yeah, there's Fred. Yeah, right? Dave LeBlanc, Freddie.
There's a German buddy visiting for Scott Feld. Right?
Yeah, there's
beer. Look at that.
Wow, look at that. Baby Paul with the beer.
Baby Paul. Oh, the days pre-children, right?
Yeah. Right? Look at all that beer. And
wow, yeah.
You're going to see some faces here in a second. I think there's Mark. There's Fred Puatua. There's Mike Mitchell right there.
Yep. There's Mitchell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And let's see. Looks like a Goldstein over here. Can't tell. It's kind of out of focus, but
a little bit. Yeah.
Let's see.
That's great that we got the video of this.
Look at Mark Parkins playing Greek.
Yeah, there's Mark. Yeah.
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 And who's that? Robert Hatton, I think.
That's Hatton over there. Yeah. You know, I saw a quick picture. I was looking at Hatton and I. I think we were in 7th grade together.
Here's Christy Clegg.
Is that Christy?
Yeah. Oh, she has a
Yeah.
cigarette. I wonder what the parents are going to think about this. This is Kevin Merritt on the left in the jacket.
Yeah.
How funny is this?
Again, Mark.
Let me see who else I got here.
Nice.
You're here somewhere. That's Mark Rivera.
I remember Rivera, yeah.
Yeah. But I got to get to Freddie because Freddie's over here ready to rock in his tuxedo jacket.
I remember that tuxedo jacket thing he was wearing. Yeah.
Here we go. Wait. Here we go.
Yep. There he is. Oh, the 80s.
Look at this great
the
here. The debauchery. There's Kevin Merritt, right?
Yep. There's Kevin.
There's Mark Parkins. Kevin, they're playing this game to see if the beer gets shooken up.
Oh, right. Shake the beer and pop it in and open it in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the guy looks like.
Look at Mark and his golden locks. Oh, that guy had it blow up in his face.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Name that guy.
Yeah, some of them I don't recognize.
Well, they were younger classmen. They're like, we're going to do what the cool guys are doing.
Right, yeah, some of the younger underclassmen.
Was that embarrassing, David? Can you handle that? Can you handle the truth?
Can handle the truth. Hey, Lago di Marola was really popular. Yeah. I remember with MWR, there was a triathlon. We did we used to do the Ironman when we were lifeguards of Villaggio, and I remember one year we did, and we swam in Lake Marola. That's where we did sort of the mile swim or something. Then we did the bicycle, and then we did the run. I remember I did an Ironman there.
Before I got booted out of Italy, I almost took it over, like I was going to get a job running it, and I would have been living like a G. I would have bought one of those $2,500 BMWs and been able to afford it plenty. Rent an apartment for 300 lira, whatever. I would have been like Mac Daddy, it would have been great, but no. Yeah. Other things were in store. I had to go to California.
Lenny, they had to kick you out, brother.
My time was up.
You couldn't handle Italy. Italy couldn't handle you.
It was too rough. It was too rough, man. Couldn't handle those paninos and the brioches.
Those toast, the Italian toast. Yeah. Hey, Americans, they call them panino. We call it toast. Vero, Rico?
Yeah.
Toast Italiano.
They don't say panino. Panini, bro.
We say panini. We say el panino is a panino. Then the toast is a toast. But here it's taken off. It's funny to see how all these, you know, like I go to, God, one of the worst things, honestly, is Starbucks. I miss the cafe italiano. You walk into the cafe and they either give you espresso, caffè lungo, caffè corto, cappuccino, just the normal ones. All the other stuff that they throw in there nowadays, and I go into Starbucks and I see all that, I'm like, yeah,
they're probably going to go out of business due to this COVID thing, man. Who's going to go out of there when you can make your coffee at home?
You can make it. Listen, I got my cafetiera.
Right,
Enrico, you got me that frother years ago that I make a cappuccino with. I'm good. I get the Lavazza Rossa from online. I get it sent, and I do my coffee that way. Yeah, because
I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with a Starbucks in Italy, honestly, because every time I go back, I'll tell you what, Len, you remember, I think somebody mentioned it the other day, that you used to have to dress up to go on field trips so that you didn't stand out. If you go back to Italy now, you can't tell an American kid from an Italian kid.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think there was a generational thing, and I think our generation was the split in Italy between those who embrace la bella figura. You go dressed up to the nines, even if you go to the Sagra, you always have slack, nice shirt.
Yeah.
And right around the 90s, there was a split with, and I think it was a heat wave that might have put it over the edge, where a lot of Italians decided Americans are so lucky. They get to be comfortable. Nobody judges what they're wearing, you know. And so from the 90s, you started to see this shift where half the people were dressing up still to go out and do things, and the other half were becoming very casual, wearing shorts and tee. Now, of course, the Italians always have style, even with what they put on casual, but it's becoming less and less a difference between, particularly the kids these days. One or the other, you won't be able to tell the difference. And I think the social media is so global in terms of how quickly it spreads trends and looks and feels. You know, we talked about how we got movies 6 months late, and that, you know, you started to follow that as sort of what was going on in the States, but now it's immediate.
You're never behind the times, and you can rip it on a stream if you're a creative little kid. You know, you're not going to pay for the movie theater. Hey, movie on post. No, I get it on my phone. We're gonna do it while I'm drinking beer and by Bellagio and by the church. Actually, that back walkway to Bellagio is closed, so they don't have the back entrance.
Oh yeah, Stang, I heard. Yeah, they closed it. The farm, or I guess the family that owned that property, they stopped that. But you know, it's funny because when I graduated in '86, and then I was coming back through the late '80s every summer, and then through the '90s, I'd come back for visits. I brought my son back once. I brought my daughter back once, and then when I moved to Germany in 2001, right before 9/11, I moved back to Germany. I was in Germany 11 years, so I'd go constantly to Italy, going through 2000 and what. So to your point, Enrico, I just saw this progressive change, generational change, where exactly the clothing became more global. It started looking all very similar. Just everything started, they built the Piramidi, and then they started with the indoor mall, and then they started having these sort of Americanized, global
Western influence has gone all over the world.
Yeah, sort of that modern kind of feel to it, and generationally, I started seeing, like, my grandparents, my nonna passed away. Older aunts and uncles passed away. I just kind of watched a whole layer of that generation disappear. And now it's sort of our parents and then us. And now there's like our kids. And so, like, to Eric's point, you don't need to dress any different. I don't think, that you can't tell really who's who. They all start. It's like if you go out, you can't tell one car from another. You ever notice now all the cars look the same, whether it's a Toyota, a Honda.
Yeah.
You notice these sort of MUVs, these SUV MUVs, they all look the same. I walk, how many times I walked up to the dang wrong car and tried to open a door because it looks exactly like half the cars in the lot look like mine. So I think that's sort of to that point that just even in Europe, because I was in Germany and I used to come to Italy, that generation with the social media and all, they're starting to all just kind of have a blended look where
we live life before the internet. We lived, we had to think in our brain, we had to memorize phone numbers. We had to anticipate and use our hunting skills, our sixth senses, and anticipation and our own version of analytics of probability. Well, there's a teen club dance over here, but Billy Jackson's throwing a party down by the river.
Right.
Where are all the fun is going to happen? Where's that girl I might want to ask out to the prom? Which place is she going to be?
And everyone in our time, you committed. So, if we said we at school, we would say, okay, doing a bridge party, 7:00, everyone there. Everybody came there. There was no, I noticed my daughter.
We were not flaky.
No, that's it. My kids have all said, and my daughter especially through high school, because that's when social media really kicked up. Everybody flakes. They can't seem to pull anybody together. Nobody commits. They do last second. And for us, if the last thing you said to somebody was you were going to be somewhere at this time, you were there at that time.
It was about respect, but you both, if you and I were going to hang out on Friday downtown by the ice cream
Piazza Signori, right.
Piazza Signori to get some ice cream, whatever. We're going to both try to get there because we both don't want to miss out on the situation. And we know the other person is bringing the other half of the puzzle. Well, I'm going to get together and be too cool and then show up late by myself. Oh, I missed him. You don't want to do that. You want to, I got to hang out, man. So you would.
Well, we used to. Now I'm thinking of the hangout. You remember there was September's Bar. Yeah. There was Vesuvio's, Piazza Signori. If we hung out there were just certain spots that we knew you would hit, and that's where you all congregated.
The Weizen Bar.
Yeah. Oh, Big Ben. Big Ben became later.
Big Ben.
And then Bar. Palladium. And
Palladium. Nordest. Do you remember Nordest? Yeah, Nordest was a big discoteca. It was funny because
in Marostica, Shindy. That was pretty cool.
Shindy.
Yeah.
When my wife and I got together, and I was calling them discoteca. She just thought that was a word. She would laugh.
You're a dork.
You went to discoteca? You went to discotheque? What? And I'm like, that's what we called the nightclub, And so she still laughs and says, man, you go to discoteca.
You're so groovy, man.
I know.
But it's just how it works.
Because you get an image of John Travolta with the leisure suit and all that kind of stuff.
So I'm gonna introduce a new segment. I'm gonna pick a lot of girls, and we're gonna have them on here with you, and we're gonna call it "Could It Have Worked?" And we're gonna pretend you get married. I'm joking.
Could it have worked?
That's hilarious.
Hey, you and Mike Walker got me in trouble, and I'm going to have to tell Mike this because my wife watched the podcast, and you and Mike were talking about how I came up to hook up with that girl in Germany with Mike, and she's like, really? And you guys are like, yeah, Dave, with the girls. You got me in trouble. She's like, what girls? What's going on? What was that all about?
No, that's the new version is like, if I married him then, seeing the guy I see in the podcast, would I be with this guy today? Right? It's like, it's a unanimous no. No, I'm just kidding. But you get my point. That'd be hilarious. I'm not going to mix anything like that. It's more about the memories, and it's more about for those of us that stay there longer, discovering a different planet called the United States, and those that went there and loved it and wanted to go back, and the people that still stayed with it. But we're all over the world. There's probably not another high school with as many military leaders. Maybe one of the other German or other DOD schools might have generated the same kind of kids like what we have in the military. But everybody's everywhere, and you can travel the world like gypsies. We're everywhere, and that's the funny part. Where you go to Kentucky, most of your friends are still in Kentucky. But Bobby might have moved to Vegas, and Johnny wanted to be in LA, but that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah,
you're going to be some real bohemian, global, surf the world kind of person to really, out of like an American school, to desire that. To say, I want to be this. Maybe you become an airline pilot internationally, and you become a very global person, or you join the military. But only 1% of the country serves.
Yeah, it's a very small amount. Right.
Unless you got Sergeant Kersey on the base, because I think he recruited at least 15% of my graduating class ended up somewhere in the Army, or at least in the military, Air Force, Navy. or Army. So it was interesting how many from my class either started there or, you know.
I imagine what my spiel would be. So you're 18. Come to me, have a beer and free pizza at the snack bar. You're a man now. You're a man,
That's why
son.
they kicked you out of Italy.
Yeah,
Lenny.
you're a man
That's
now.
That's why they kicked you out.
You know, I actually left. I did leave.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to feel the boot hit my ass. I was gone.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
But what was I going to do sitting around with no job in Italy? Hey, Dad, you get $5? I mean, you couldn't work as a local national. Wait 8 months for summer hire to start again?
Nah.
Oh my God, summer hire. That's
summer hire.
That brings back memories of talk about learning humility. Talk about skills you picked up in Italy. Humility of summer hire was definitely one of those.
Yes. It was.
Unless you're a lifeguard like me and Dave, there was no humility.
You guys were good. And I got blocked because if I run through my summer hires, I remember I did two summers maybe at the auto craft shop, which was basically helping the GIs fix their cars and they could rent tools and things like that.
Right, I remember that, yeah.
I did one at the, it wasn't bad, which was basically at the MWR, re-waxing the skis for the wintertime in the summer. And then I remember Sean Klebb and I, we were in the elementary school one summer together. I don't know if she was at the high school end and I was at the elementary school end, but that was a little bit more administrative. And then finally, I'd done everything I needed to do to become a lifeguard. But because David was the manager there, they wouldn't let me join the pool. Remember that? So,
yeah, that's right. I was a pool supervisor. Yeah, I remember that over in Villaggio. And the first summer hire I did, I think it was my freshman year. And because you remember they used to have it was two sessions of summer hire. There was like a first session, a second session. So, and at that time you could only do one because there were so many kids. And my first summer hire was at the MP station, and I had to make the ID cards. I actually typed on a typewriter the ID card information that then got laminated, and that's what I did for that summer. And then after a couple of weeks of that, I said, I got to do something else. And I think, Len, is when I think Freddie might have been a lifeguard. And he said, because, Fred and Mark loved to swim, and they just went right to that. And Fred said, hey, be a lifeguard, and I said, I'm on it. So then that's when I, took the lifeguard course, and then I was a lifeguard all the way through, and we were lifeguards. And then that became just all summer. Remember, we were 3 days on, 3 days off shift, and we used to do
pool party managers at night. Yeah, that's what we were.
Many a pool party, and then there was the Oak Club pool, the post pool, but the post pool was for the GIs. They we didn't have to. I think MWR managed that separately, and we just did the
Villaggio and the
Villaggio, and Villaggio had two pools.
Yeah.
With the little kiddie pool in between the two big pools, and
man, I memories in that pool, man. Those were great. I mean, riding your 10-speed bike, 3 miles to get there. Yeah. And then being stuck under the chair with you guys because you'd whistle us for running or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Get under the chair.
A hot day. You get a long ride on your bike. You go to that little food land. You get some of those orange popsicles.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I remember that.
And then your bike would be kicked over because the asphalt would melt. And your bike would be stuck. You'd have to unstick it from the asphalt.
I remember that. Yeah.
But you remember the smell of the chlorine and, the hot humidity and that you could smell the field nearby. And then you have the popsicle and you're kind of hot, cold, like you just swam.
And
the heat off you and you're like, this is the perfect place, right?
You remember the deck on Villaggio pools had no shade. There was we didn't have umbrellas up there and all. You were just at the mercy of the sun. Mm-hmm. And you just would bake, man. That was the worst. Only us on the chair. We did have that umbrella, Len, on the lifeguard chair. But I remember they didn't have anything. Maybe a couple of tables and chairs, but I don't recall. And I remember, but we were tough. I mean, we took a good, burning at the beginning of the summer, good peel and then tan up and then move on. You just, by the end of the summer, we were nice and tan, roasted. And we could handle it. So
that was a good old time. I'm gonna get some more people on here, man. You guys have been excellent today.
oh, thanks, Len. Well, we appreciate you having us.
How's your first podcast feel?
It's great. Fun to reminisce and just hear all these perspectives. You know, it's again, I think you said it earlier. Everybody, you know, had the same experience but slightly different. It was touching to kind of hear. I think it was Derek on the podcast that was just, you know, saying people had things going on and nobody was aware of, and it drove maybe a lot of their attitude or the things, and you know, that is enlightening. And I think every single person had something going on or driving them, or you know, so it was fun to reminisce and just kind of those things were salvation for people, whether it was sports. You know, for me it was drama. You know, I had Mr. Rob and then Mr. Hill, you know, just gave me so many opportunities to start and play, you know, be in plays and having that community of, you know, folks that weren't athletic but had another outlet, you know, and to be able to even travel and compete in drama things, you know, for chorus. You know, Mr. Damaso was just fantastic.
Damaso and Damaso, you know, for me, one last thought I have is, you know, Damaso, I've run into him a couple of times. He's there. I think he does some part-time work in the food court, still in Vicenza. But I was down when I was teaching in Graf back in 2000 and I want to say 4. And I was down with my family and we went over, we happened to stop into the BK, interesting enough. So we went over to the BK and it was my wife and I were sitting there. It was during the summer break. And I look and I see the back of an older gentleman and I knew right away who it was. So this is 2004 and it was Mr. Benanti. He happened to come to Italy for a quick just visit. And he was with another teacher that I didn't know because he had come a little bit later after we had graduated, Len. But I said to my wife, I said, "Hun, that's Mr. Benanti." And she knew him because I had talked so much about him, that experience. So I went over to Mr. Benanti and I tapped him on the shoulder and he turned around and he looked up at me. And I thought, I doubt he'll remember, you know, it's been so long. I mean, it was like 20 years later, you know. He looked up and he just took a quick look at me and he said, "David." And he got excited and he jumped up and he started to cry. And we hugged and I said, "Mr. Benanti, so good to see you." And he said, "Yeah, I'm just visiting." And I believe his wife had passed away, Mrs. Benanti. Eric, you had Enrico, you had Miss Benanti, I remember.
I Miss Benanti for fifth with Goldstein, a bunch of it.
And I remember I was so moved and so touched, and Mr. Benanti remembered me like I was still a student in class. And so, you know, that to me is what that's my connection. It's those moments like that where I reconnect with someone from Vicenza, from my past, and, you know, we have that immediate bond, that care. And so when Mr. Benanti did that, I just knew that we're always going to be connected, all of us who are Vicenza folks, all of us who shared those times, however we remember them, however they were, but it's made an impact on us. And when we run into each other, and Len, thanks for doing these podcasts, because as we connect, I know that if I start reconnecting on this level, not a one-dimensional, because Facebook is really one-dimensional.
It is.
Really,
and you make a lot of assumptions that aren't true.
that aren't true. But when you connect, and so when I looked at Mr. Benanti and he started to cry and hug me, and there was that connection, I said, this is what it's about. So we just need to continue staying connected, and then eventually, when we can meet in person, it's pretty powerful. I really say to everyone out there in Cougar land, all of us Cougars, when you meet in person, when I ran into Mike Doliani in person just last year, you know, I've known Mike my whole life. And so when we connected, it's deep. It is very deep, and it does resonate, and it brings back what maybe you're not sure. Sometimes you've left, you haven't seen people. You may have some good times, some bad times, some whatever they were. But in the end, it's the good that seems to prevail. It's just that feeling of connection to your journey and your past that seems to come out in front.
Definitely, my friend. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. We will do more of these. Stay tuned. We bring the Dingus brothers back with different people at different times for different things.
Great.
Thanks for coming
This
on,
sounds
man.
awesome.